OnePlus has been known for their budget devices for a while now, and this year they have unveiled their OnePlus 6. Their most premium handset to date with a glass back, edge-to-edge display, and the latest in hardware. That would be the Snapdragon 845 as the brains, backed by the Adreno 630 for the graphics card, as well as 6 gigs of RAM and a starting storage space of 64 gigs, all for $530. They even have other models starting at 8 gigs of RAM with more storage, with a higher price of course. Okay, so let's start with the hardware, and this is really where OnePlus needed to change things up, and they did. Just like other handsets, we've now got a glass back. The model we have in the video is the Mirror Black that has a ceramic look to it. They achieved this by applying a thin film to the inside, and I really dig it. Even though it's Gorilla Glass 5 and scratch resistant, I did apply some dbrand skins to it so I wouldn't have to keep wiping away the fingerprints. There's also a white with gold trim and a matte black version, all of which have the same glass back but with different textures. So we also get water resistant this year, and they don't give a rating, but OnePlus says it's enough to survive a drop in the sink or a spilled glass of water. Now I'm not going to take the risk and test it because I might damage the phone, so I'm just going to go ahead and take their word for it. Surprisingly, the OnePlus 6 does not have any wireless charging, and that's kind of a letdown, to be honest. I think they did that to keep the cost down, but nevertheless, we are aiming towards a more wireless future, so I would have loved to see that. But we do get their famous dash charging, which claims to give a full days of power in just half an hour of charging. Which when we tested it, it's about 60% give or take. With moderate use, you can actually go on a full day with 60% battery life left. When I was using it, I usually finish the day off with about 20 to 30%, but that is with heavy use. Something that's different this year is the fingerprint sensor, and they've actually reshaped it, which has less surface area than before, and they've placed it right below the dual cameras, which is a little annoying because I sometimes smudge the camera lens instead of tapping on the sensor, but I feel like over time I will get used to the placement. However, it is quick as ever, and they've also brought back their face unlock that's freakishly fast. It recognizes your face so quick that you might miss your lock screen. I mean, it's not going to be as secure as the iPhone face unlock, but it works great, and honestly so far I haven't run into any issues with it. Every single OnePlus phone before this one was known for their meh camera quality, and this year the company is promising much better performance from the 2-camera setup. The primary camera has a 16 megapixel Sony sensor with an f1.7 aperture and optical image stabilization. The second camera is also a Sony sensor but with a 20 megapixel camera and again at f1.7 aperture. What's weird about this configuration is that both cameras actually have the same focal length. Typically in this setup, you would have one telephoto lens for a lossless 2x zoom, and the other lens would be a monochrome lens for those black and white stills. But how the OnePlus 6 cameras work is the second sensor actually captures the entire image detail, and that's sent over to the main camera's image for better digital zooming. You also get lower noise and better detail. And the end result, drumroll please, it's decent. I mean, it's definitely better than last year's OnePlus, but it's far from phones like the Pixel 2 and the iPhone 10. The software applies a little too much sharpening, and I found the shots noisy in darker environments, but they were overall much better than the OnePlus 5T. In part due to the optical image stabilization that also smoothed out our shaky videos. In the video front, we also get the super slow motion at 480 FPS at 720p and 240 FPS at 1080p. It's really fun shooting in these modes. Even though 480 FPS is limited to 1 minute, it still churns out to about 16 minutes of slow motion footage, and you can even make the most normal things like a guy riding on a scooter look pretty cool. The selfie cam is also pretty decent at 16 megapixels. Now, I'm not a big selfie guy, so I won't be using this as much, but I did notice that the pictures are sharp without any distortion. OnePlus hasn't released a portrait mode for the front camera yet, but it's coming soon after the phone's release. So at the front, we've got this edge-to-edge 1080p display and of course, a notch. And to be honest, I don't mind. It's small and I don't find it distracting like others might. If it bothers you, there is an option to hide it in the settings. And speaking about software, it's pretty close to stock, just like OnePlus has always kept it. There are a few additions that I think add to the overall experience, like the drawer to the left of the home screen. Now this is where you can pin widgets and have information quickly accessible. However, I do think they should allow users to switch this with the Google Now feed because I much prefer that instead. They've also kept the alert slider, which toggles between different sound profiles, and this is probably one of the most undervalued features on OnePlus phones. I use it all the time and I hope they keep this going forward. We've also got gestures if you want to maximize your screen real estate. I gotta be honest, it was weird at first, but I did get used to it quickly and now I have it turned on. So you swipe up to exit an app, and then you swipe and hold for multitasking, and to go back you basically swipe up on the right or left side. I mean, it's not as great as my iPhone X's gestures, but it's a great start, which hopefully they will improve with software updates. Another welcome feature in Oxygen OS is the dark theme, which blacks out the system UI, and with the AMOLED display it looks great. The display, by the way, isn't the sharpest at 2280 by 1080, but you'd have a hard time telling. Being AMOLED, it has dark blacks and the colors are vibrant. It has good viewing angles and no noticeable color tint. Overall, it's great to look at. There is one thing that does take away from the media experience, and that is the speakers. I mean, it does get loud, but the higher you go, the more tinny it sounds, and there isn't even a second speaker hidden in the earpiece, so you are getting a truly mono experience. Fortunately, they have kept the headphone jack once again, and they've added Bluetooth apx, which improves the sound quality with supported Bluetooth headphones. Performance-wise, this thing is a beast. With the Snapdragon 845, you're not gonna see any stutter, especially since Oxygen OS is so close to stock. Playing games like PUBG Mobile were no problem as expected, and owning OnePlus phones in the past, I didn't expect this phone to slow down for a while, unlike other Android manufacturers. The Snapdragon 845 also enables faster connection speeds with 4x4 MIMO. But here in the States, we're ways from that being available, but it's nice to know that it's future-proof. For $530, this thing checks a lot of boxes, but I wouldn't call it a flagship killer since it's so bare bones. And what I mean by that is that there aren't any special hardware or features that make the OnePlus 6 stand out against the rest of the crowd. If you're someone that doesn't have $1,000 to drop on the latest flagships and you're looking for a smartphone with a great camera, modern hardware, and an all-day battery life with a headphone jack, then the OnePlus 6 is a great start. But if you're someone who's looking for something a little more, maybe it's a higher resolution screen or better camera or maybe just better sounding speakers, then the OnePlus 6 is not for you and you should definitely look elsewhere. And that pretty much wraps up my review of the OnePlus 6. If you guys enjoyed it, dropping a like would be awesome and you can help support the channel. I'll drop a link to this down below if you guys want to check it out. And as always, I will see you in the next one.